This is the Canon EOS 4000D. Wait, no. This is the Canon 4000D, not to be confused with the 400D from 2006. This comparison will make more sense throughout the video. The Canon 4000D, previously the cheapest DSLR camera offered by Canon, it's currently being superseded by the 2000D, yet you can still find this camera in a bundle, so it still fills their cheapest DSLR role. However, cheapest does not necessarily mean good value. It's often touted as baby's first DSLR, as it's cheap in comparison to the rest of their range, and it's not too overcomplicated with settings. They've cut down a lot of the available options and cut down the build quality. The lens mount is plastic, which isn't necessarily an issue, but I would not trust heavy lenses on this. There is no dedicated on and off switch, and instead is covered by the control knob at the top. This also means that video has a dedicated mode with cut down options. Those video options, they aren't the greatest. The image can be very noisy, even with an okay lighting setup. The image is soft, even when in focus, if you can see the focus, that is. The screen is a 240p screen fixed to the back of the camera. You cannot tell whether something is in focus, whether you zoom in or not, due to the screen resolution and size being lacking. You'd think autofocus would be possible, but it completely throws out the exposure and you have to manually press the button to activate it, so it's unusable. Pairing this camera with an external monitor would be helpful, but then you lose some of the size benefits of the camera. There's no focus peaking, there's no zebra. It's the most basic video capability I've seen in a camera. The video codec itself is H.264 in an MOV wrapper. Anyone who does video editing will tell you that this can be terrible to edit, and this camera is no exception. The files just seem to chug within Premiere. The worst thing about this camera has to be the placement of the SD card slot. It's right next to the batteries on the bottom, which means that once it's attached to a tripod, you cannot change the card without removing the tripod mount. I prefer leaving the camera on the tripod mount as it makes it really easy to pick up and shoot, but with this setup it doesn't allow me to do so. The image quality, if you intend on using it as a stills camera only, is fine. The description of baby's first DSLR rings true. This camera has the ability to take some stunning photos and some pretty okay video, but it all comes down to who is using it, along with the accessories you pair it with. The faster the lenses, the more beautiful bokeh you can get. It's unlikely you'll be pairing the 4000D with expensive lenses, as it would be a mismatched pairing, so it all brings down the capability of the camera. With this camera having an EFS mount, it can utilise EFS lenses, along with any adapters that allow you to use vintage lenses such as M42 or FD lenses. This increases the flexibility of the camera by a fair margin, and thus for the price is a fairly attractive buy as an entry point for DSLR photography. That is until you actually look at the price. At the price of £220 for the camera body alone, it's hard to recommend for anyone who wants to get into photography. Compare this to the 400D, a camera from 2006. As that DSLR still comes with all the benefits you would get with the 4000D. You can build out your EF lens collection for when you upgrade to a higher end camera, and the photos are still pretty decent. The card slot is even on the side, allowing for easy changing. It is a CF card though, so adapters can be bought for the 400D to be used with SD cards. The 400D body can be had for £90 or less, depending on if you're willing to do some auction bids, making that a much more appealing baby's first DSLR. The only limitation is that it doesn't come with a video mode, but with the quality of the 4000D video mode, I don't recommend it at all. It doesn't even have to be the 400D, that's just the other camera I have on hand. The 350D also exists at a similar price range for a bit more money, yet still less than the 4000D. The 1300D seems like a good choice, and that also has video. You might even be able to find a 700D or a 750D at a similar price depending on availability, which would absolutely demolish the 4000D in video capabilities. It depends on what's available in your country, but most DSLRs will create a decent enough quality for a beginner's camera. Let's look at a different comparison. If you spend a little bit more, you can get much better quality. Doesn't necessarily have to be this camera, this is just what I had on hand, but a refurbished Lumix G80 can be had directly from Panasonic for £330. Sure, it's a mirrorless camera, but the video quality absolutely smashes the video quality of the 4000D. It does have a slightly higher crop factor, being 2 times rather than 1.6, but for the quality improvement alone, both in build and in image and video, spending a little bit more nets you a huge quality improvement. The 4000D makes no sense. It's a camera without a market. The video quality is just under mediocre, and I would not recommend it for anyone to buy for the video capabilities. The stills image quality is fine, but nothing spectacular. For half the price, you can still get a great stills camera used, such as the 400D or the 350D. For a little bit more, you can get a better camera that absolutely smashes the 4000D out of the water.